As promised, here is my thoughts on why I believe the meta for rackets is going towards head heavy. And before we get into that, as always, drop a follow, leave a comment, share this with someone, repost, save this, whatever you want to do. Just support the video so that I can continue to grow and make these kind of videos for y'all. Before we get into my thoughts, let me kind of first explain what everyone knows, just so we're on the same page. So when you first start looking to rackets, right, the most important thing, or the first thing people usually tell you about is the head balance. And what are we usually told? Even balance are the all-rounders, right? They're not particularly good at anything, but they don't have any apparent weaknesses as well. Headlight rackets, there's less weight in the head, there's more weight towards the bottom, so it's going to be more maneuverable, but you lack power. And that's an oversimplification. We can talk about why that might not be the case or might not in another video, but for the sake of the video, this one, and keeping it simple, let's just assume that if there's less weight in the head, that means less power, but more speed in the midcourt, more speed in the defense, right? For head-heavy rackets, we are told, and everyone say this with me, more head weight in the head means more power. It also means more control and better touch. But the downside, obviously, is that it's going to be slower. And that lies my point. What if you could have a head-heavy racket that was fast, right? And manufacturers figured out how to do this, right? At first, they just reduced the head weight a little bit. For example, like the Assailant Pro is 293 mm, so slightly head heavy. But people figured out, I don't know who, that you can make the rackets aerodynamic, you can make the shafts slimmer, you can make the head compact, and you can make the edges of the frame cut through the air faster. So you can have a head-heavy racket feel not as head-heavy as it's supposed to be. So for example, like the 1000Z this isn't the 1000Z obviously, but the 1000Z popularized the super wide body, but other rackets, like for example, the Apex Hard Hitter Pro also has a super, like they call it aero wide, but like basically a aerodynamic body. So it's super wide, but the actual edges of the frame itself are very thin, which means it cuts through the air really fast. You combine that with a smaller head, so compact frame, and a thinner shaft, and you have a racket that is head heavy, but is still maneuverable, right? If you ever precision scanned a 1000Z, you know its head weight is closer to 300. It's head heavy. The Hard Hitter Pro officially has a spec of 305, right? So these are head heavy rackets, but they move quick. They are maneuverable in the front. They are very competent in the midcourt, and yes, you are going to hit hard because of that head weight. That is why I think the meta is going that way, because racket manufacturers have figured out a way to have all the benefits of a head-heavy racket, but negating the speed factor. This opens up a new category or a new meta of what I call speed sticks, right? A lot of like badminton enthusiasts online know what I'm talking about. So essentially a speed stick is an archetype of a racket that is typically more about speed. It's usually slightly too head heavy, and it's a little bit whippier, and it's more about speed and power, right? Because of this is why I think rackets are getting head heavier and head heavier, because the actual number on the spec sheet does not matter if it doesn't feel that way. For example, if the spec sheet says, oh, this racket is 310 or 315 millimeters, but it moves really quick, no one really cares. I think this is why headlight rackets are slowly dying out, and we're seeing more and more even balance rackets, and we're also seeing rackets that are more commonly exceeding that 300 millimeter balance point. Because it doesn't make sense to have a headlight racket, which its only benefit is speed in the midcourt and defense, if you can also have a head-heavy racket that's also fast in the defense and midcourt, but it also hits harder, it has a better touch in your drops, and has a better touch in the net shots, right? Why would you want to have a headlight racket when you can have a head-heavy racket that does the same thing? And also, head-heavy rackets tend to be a bit more durable. Don't just take my word for it. Look at your favorite pro player. What kind of racket are they using? 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, they are using a head-heavy racket. And by definition, for me at least, head-heavy racket is a racket that is above 285 millimeters in balance point. 285 I consider even balance, and anything under 285 I consider headlight. Now the meta might change again, considering we have a shot clock, considering we have a shorter point system, and who knows? The speed of the game is always going to get faster. Speed is the number one thing that is important in badminton. Who knows? Maybe they figure out a way to have headlight rackets have a lot of power without making the rackets excessively stiff. I don't know what the future holds, but I think that is where the meta is. It's been like this for a few years. It's very hard to find a truly headlight racket these days. I don't know. Maybe this is just, maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me. Just back it up with stats, back it up with figures. I look forward to having a discussion with y'all in the comments below. See ya.